Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into something really cool today. We're tackling alchemy, but not the Harry Potter kind. We're going deep into the Alchemiae Gebri Arabis, which is, a collection of writings from the famous alchemist Jabir Ibn Hayyan, or as many know him, Geber.
Yeah, and get this, we're going to see a side of alchemy you might not expect. Forget bubbling cauldrons, think meticulous lab work. Geber was obsessed with detail in a way that was way ahead of his time.
Okay, gotta ask, we're working with the excerpt here, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that just jumps out is how crazy detailed Geber is about every single thing. Lab setup, he's writing entire chapters on it.
It's wild.
Materials, he doesn't just say use sulphur. He's like, here's how you purify it, where to find the good stuff. It's like an ancient lab manual, but way more intense.
Exactly. You almost have to see it to believe it. Think about when this guy was working. Most people figured things just sort of happened, like spontaneous generation was a hot topic back then.
Right.
But Geber's over here giving step-by-step instructions on how to make a specific glass vessel. He's got the dimensions, the shape, even what kind of glass to use. It's nuts.
So he wasn't just trying to make something work once. He's trying to figure out how to make it work the same way every time.
Exactly.
That's setting the stage for modern science right there.
Yeah.
And this meticulousness, it really comes through in how he talks about purifying substances.
Oh, absolutely. He goes on and on about it. It's pages and pages. Like with salts, for example. I'm paraphrasing here, but he says something like, dissolve it, filter it 7 times, then heat it until it's whiter than snow.
7
That's 7. He's not messing around. It shows the difference between actual alchemy and just kind of winging it. He's trying to get to the purest form of everything so he can really understand it. And that's such a modern concept, even if his methods were a bit different.
It makes you appreciate the groundwork these guys laid. It wasn't all magic and spells. It was about observation, repetition, even if they didn't have the same chemistry knowledge we do now.
Totally. And you see how seriously he took it in how he talks about those he calls charlatans, people who destroy the art by being careless. It's like you can almost picture him on ancient social media ranting about these wannabe alchemists, haha.
I love it.
He wanted to separate the real deal from the fakers.
It's like he's saying, look, this isn't some parlor trick. This is serious business. He even mentions he's got other books with even more detail, like hidden secrets for the truly dedicated. But maybe we should save that rabbit hole for another time. What about his ideas about metals?
Yeah, let's get into that, because that's where it gets really interesting. It's this blend of super precise observation and, well, some pretty creative interpretation.
So we've got this super meticulous alchemist, right? But what's he actually trying to do with all this knowledge? What I'm getting from these excerpts is this idea that Geber was really focused on metals, but not just how to use them for, making stuff.
Oh, absolutely. He was after something way deeper than just practical applications.
It's like he thought metals had some kind of deeper meaning,
You're right on the money. This is where it gets really interesting, because the line between the actual physical stuff and the symbolic starts to get kind of blurry with Geber. He really believed that metals, just as you find them in nature, weren't in their ideal state.
Oh, interesting. What, like they were incomplete or something?
Yeah, like a rough draft. He talks about fixing and completing metals through alchemy. And get this, he thought you could bring them closer to the perfection of celestial bodies.
Yeah, hold on. Are we talking stars and planets now?
We are. He's always using this language of sun properties, moon properties when he's describing metals. And it wasn't just flowery writing either.
Right.
It all connected to real things they were observing about how these metals behaved.
It's like how even now we still talk about lunar cycles or whatever. We still connect those things, even if we don't think about them the same way.
Exactly. For Geber, gold, that was connected to the sun. Incorruptible, right? Like how they thought the sun's fire was eternal. Silver, that was the moon. Cycles, change, reflecting the moon's phases. But it's deeper than just comparing them. It's about how they understood what these metals really were deep down.
Okay, so it's not just him being poetic about shiny stuff. So how did he think you could actually change a metal's essence? I mean, is that even possible?
Through alchemy, of course. And this is where all that meticulous work comes in. He lays out these crazy detailed procedures, heating, melting, combining metals, treating them with all sorts of substances. He even talks about how long to keep something at a certain temperature, how finely you have to grind something down. It's incredible.
So he's thinking, by messing with a metal's physical properties, you can change its that spiritual side. Or, I don't know, symbolic qualities, I guess.
Yeah, you got it. Don't forget, the way they saw the world, the lab was a mini version of the whole cosmos.
Oh, right, right.
So if he could replicate the heat of the sun in his furnace, in his mind, he was using those same cosmic forces to act on the metal itself.
That's kind of a mind-blowing idea, even if the science behind it seems a little shaky to us now. Is there, like, a specific example of this? How he connected what he was doing in the lab to these big ideas about, metals and planets and all that?
Oh, for sure. Remember how obsessed he was with purity?
Yeah, 7 washes, all that.
Exactly. Impurities in the metal, he saw those as like hiding the metal's true nature. I'm pretty sure he actually says, just as the sun's light is hidden by clouds, so are the noble qualities of metals veiled by impurities. So all that purifying, it wasn't just about cleanliness. He's trying to remove the clouds to reveal the perfect form underneath.
Okay, now that is just cool, but I gotta admit, for all the talk of perfection in celestial bodies, some of this stuff just goes right over my head. Like when he starts talking about spirits and souls and inside these materials, it's like, did we wander into a seance all of a sudden?
Yeah, that's where I have to admit I kind of get lost too. Like, one minute we're talking about building furnaces, and the next, metals have souls. It's a lot.
It definitely takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
You have to remember, with alchemy, symbolism was huge, Edie. They weren't always going for a literal, like, chemistry textbook explanation. So when Geber's talking about the spirit of a metal, he doesn't mean there's a ghost floating out of the crucible, right?
Not exactly, no. Think of it more like potential energy, but on a cosmic level. They believe everything was connected, and these spirits were like the fundamental forces driving everything, both the physical stuff and the spiritual side, too.
Okay, so less about an actual ghost, more about the hidden potential inside something.
Right. Like, instead of just a lump of gold, Geber saw something connected to the sun, something you could tap into, transform, to unlock what it was really capable of.
So the lab was almost like a sacred space, where the everyday stuff met with these bigger cosmic forces.
You got it. And that's where that famous line comes in. Sic mundus creatus est. Thus the world was created. Geber looked at what he was doing, the heating, mixing, purifying, all of it, as a reflection of creation itself.
That's kind of a heavy thought.
Yeah.
Makes you think about those charlatans he was always going on about. Maybe it wasn't just him being picky about lab technique. Maybe he thought people could really mess things up if they didn't know what they were doing.
Oh, totally. Like, hey, this stuff is powerful. You can't just throw it all in a pot and see what happens. He saw alchemy as this path to knowledge, to becoming a better person, not just a way to get rich or show off.
Easy to think about how we see things today, right?
Yeah.
Geber might have had some out there ideas, but he was serious about it. He wanted to understand the universe.
And he did it all through observation, experimenting, writing everything down. Those are the foundations of science, even if his theories were a bit different from what we accept now.
So maybe he wasn't just some mystical weirdo. Maybe Geber was like a bridge between that ancient way of thinking and the scientific method that was starting to emerge.
Exactly, using what he had available to try and figure out how it all worked. And to be honest, there's still a lot we don't know about the universe. Who's to say some of Geber's ideas, even the ones that sound strange now, won't be proven right someday?
That's true. Things change. What we think is impossible, maybe it isn't. I guess that's the coolest thing about Jabir Ibn Hayyan. He reminds us to never stop questioning, experimenting, exploring the unknown, even if it seems a little weird at first.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
There you have it, everyone. Jabir Ibn Hayyan. Meticulous, ambitious, and who knows, maybe even a little bit of a visionary. Keep those minds curious, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.